Right, okay, so we've got another mini-pode. If you've just watched the last video, you will know what's coming up. And it's another anthology. If you remember, in one of my last mini-podes, I reviewed this, which was Dark Horse Presents, which is their new anthology of just short stories by different artists, different writers. Dark Horse Presents, it's very, very varied in genre, in style, which makes it no less better or worse than what Vertigo have decided to bring out. They've decided to bring out their own anthology. This is Strange Adventures. And Strange Adventures is firmly based in the sci-fi genre. And, oh, this is very good. It's right up my alley. All this sci-fi stuff, very excited about. Sorry, but I've not made any notes about these, so I'm just going to kind of flip through as we're going along. And I'll give you a quick recap over what kind of stories and who you've got writing for these. When I was talking about Dark Horse Presents, you do get the feeling that you're not going to like everything, and I didn't in Dark Horse Presents, to be fair. There was, about, 70-30 good to bad. But there was a lot much better stuff in here. We start with a title called Case 21, which is, obviously all set in the future, all a bit sci-fi, so let's take that as a given. And it's just a story basically about double-crossing, double-dealing, looking after number one. It's got a very interesting twist at the end. Very nice artwork. You've got Selwyn Hind as the writer and Dennis Cowan as the artist. Very nice. Then we went on to the more painted artwork from Juan Babilo and a story called The White Room. This is basically a room that you go into, activate it, and it will bring all your, your hidden desires to fruition in this kind of the X-Men Danger Room, but it's got your desires in, so it's a desire room rather than a danger room. And again, in the middle of it, there's an interesting twist. So yes, very exciting. My favourite story is by Peter Milligan, and it's a story called Partners, and it's dealing with the whole concept of imaginary friends. Now you might think, imaginary friends, yeah, I had one of those when I was little, we used to play in the woods or whatever. This takes it quite a few steps further, and if you haven't already read this, I'm not going to spoil it for you because it is a clever and interesting idea, and was my favourite short story out of all of it. Then we went on to one that I wasn't particularly impressed with, and it's called All the Pretty Ponies. It's by Lauren Bukes as the writer and Inaki Miranda as the artist. We have a bunch of rich socialites who are new gamers. They don these earpieces, or it goes over your head, and you go into the mind of another living person, and they can be anybody. And it was just a little bit twisted, really. I wasn't quite sure what the idea behind it was all, but oh well. Then you got on to a story by Jeff Lemire. Jeff Lemire doing Sweet Tooth at the moment. So you can expect something a little bit kooky, and the artwork, he's doing the artwork as well on this one, and it is very much, it's very kind of pulpy sci-fi 1960s. You have this spaceman who crash lands on a planet, and as he gets out of the craft, he gets zapped by 4 different aliens with their rays, and he takes on each of their kind of nuances where they've come from. So his legs kind of made of this energy, he's got like a bird's foot. He just looks completely strange, and he's wandering through space, and all he's got to hear is the last message that his wife gave him. It's very sad, kind of an emotional tale at the end of it. Great story. It's Jeff Lemire. It's quirky, it's cool. Then we have a really disgusting story called Refuse by Ross Campbell, and this is all about, you know, you've got the worst, you know, the dirtiest apartment ever. You think, well, you read this story and you will realise that you probably live in a palatial palace of cleanliness compared to this woman. It goes in quite a sick place, but again, a bit of a weird story. Then you get the Postmodern Prometheus, which is basically a story about genetic mutation, doctors experimenting on embryos and babies, and, you know, keeping it all very quiet. We've got it all done by Kevin Colden. He does the script, the art and the colours on here. An interesting tale that maybe went on a little bit too longer than it should have. Then you've got Saucer Country, which is by Paul Cornell. He recently just did a little bit on Batman and Robin, which is all about a guy living in the middle of nowhere in America, and he thinks he's seen UFOs and he's met an alien. But, you know, again, the twist in it is this real? Is it just a setup? Is it just to bring in, you know, like tourists to this area? And, you know, you don't quite know at the end. Interesting, okay-ish. And then finally, you have a story called Spaceman, and it's by the team that brought you 100 Bullets. That's Azzarello and Risso, and it isn't really that much of a departure from what they used to do on 100 Bullets. It looks like it, they talk like the characters from 100 Bullets. It's just kind of set in a future storyline setting, but overall this was great. Okay, we're looking at the price, Americans $7.99, but there's about 80 odd pages here. You get a ton of stories. You know, I'm going 90 to 10% good bad ratio there. Pick this up, you know, it's well worth it, and I can't wait, and I hope that Vertigo are going to be bringing another one of these out very, very soon, and I can't wait for Dark Horse Presents to bring out the next one. And that is it for this mini-pode. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come. That's me, Ghost Critic. I'm out.